Welcome to Meeple Podcast, English version, Season 1.
We wrap up the series on the Carcassonne Champions League by inviting the main players of this event, the finalists and the streamer who broadcasted it to the public through his channel. We're talking about Alexey, the champion, Vladimir Kovalev, the runner-up, and Otto Nallerheim, the streamer and a top Carcassonne player. We now have the opportunity to hear their perspectives on this edition of the CCL, and we'll start with the tournament's runner-up, who also secured his spot in the World Championship, since Alexey had already qualified by winning the Mind Sports Olympiad. Let's hear from someone you know.
Hello everyone, Vladimir is in touch. First of all, I want to thank Sergey and his team for organizing such a large-scale event. This greatly popularizes competitive Carcassonne, creates new content, emotions and connections between players around the world. However, for me the last tournament was not only a rivalry with the players, but also a struggle with myself. Even before the tournament started, I was seriously thinking about following Melvin into real life. But I'm glad I decided to stay in the world of Carcassonne. The tournament was quite difficult. I could easily have finished the tournament in the group round, given the tile draw in some games, but my opponents forgave me. Next, I was happy to play and have a rematch with Tatmet, who beated me in last year's CCL, and also to play with Pavel Hudets, who knocked me out of World Championship 2019. The match with Pavel was incredibly difficult, but luck was on my side. In the final, Alexey rightfully took revenge for losing to me last season, and I think he deserved this victory with his tireless passion and contribution to the popularization of Carcassonne. In any case, I unexpectedly got the opportunity to participate in the World Championship, and I will be glad to see Alexey and the audience of Meeple Podcast there. Goodbye!
And now, before hearing from the tournament champion, I think it will be interesting to listen to what Otto Ikonnen, Nallerheim on BGA, has to say about his view of what happened. Let's hear him out.
I think the CCL 2025 season was just as glorious as I expected it to be. Now, on a personal level, it would of course have been even more glorious had I performed better in the qualifiers. Not getting through them was a major disappointment for myself. However, the losses I took were also a valuable learning experience, not only for me, but also for many others, as there was a loss of mine that was covered in depth by Alexey later on. On top of the learning curve, the new eligibility format of CCL also managed to be the reason for me to organize the first ever Finnish Carcassonne Online Championship, for which I am very pleased with. Not only due to winning it, but also because it was another small milestone on the long journey of popularizing Carcassonne in Finland. Streaming the CCL 2025 was something I wanted to do ever since the previous season finished. There aren't many major Carcassonne tournaments in a year, but thanks to the efforts of the CCL staff, we now have one more that was created from nothing. Unfortunately, I was only able to start streaming the league from the round of 16 onwards due to major hardware issues, but nonetheless, I think I was able to make an impactful contribution to the league with my streaming this year as well, and I'm really grateful of the stable viewership on every stream. The organizers behind CCL handled the season really well, despite some minor issues with the bracket draws that need to be improved on. All the scheduled matches were visible for everyone well before they took place, which was essential to both streamers and the tournament audience. I'm glad the rules of CCL are strict, as there was an altercation during the season that caused some partially heated discussion. I think the correct call was made by the organization, and they showed commitment to their own rules, as is the way it should be, if you ask me. Regarding the prize for the winner, we still have some things to settle there, but I'm confident that the donation I made for CCL will be put into good use. And whilst we wait for the final prizes to be ready to be sent to the winner, we can enjoy the fact that yet another World Championship spot was allowed to be given via CCL. A worthy reward for worthy efforts.
And we close this episode and this series on the Carcassonne Champions League with a contribution from the current winner of the MSO and the CCL, Alexey Pegushev.
I'm still feeling a lot of positive emotions after the finals. Even on the next day, as I was walking to collect my bike from the local repair shop, I was just smiling non-stop all the way as I went down the street. So it feels really, really nice to have won 2 back-to-back major international tournaments, and not just because it feels nice winning things in general, but also because of the particular scenario of the final CCL match. All 3 games in the finals were tremendously interesting, with a lot of unorthodox moves, both from Vladimir and from myself. In game 1, I dropped 2 uncharacteristically early farmers, and Vladimir also responded by deviating from his usual aggressive point-scoring approach in favor of prioritizing field restriction. This type of position probably comes up rarer than 1 in 1,000 games. In Game 2, Vladimir showed what a beast of a player he is by crafting a gigantic city virtually out of nowhere to overcome his early scoreboard deficit, and at some point he brought his winning chance from around 10% up to 75%. So if not for a timely dagger draw to retrieve my Meeple from a monastery, the match scenario could have played out a lot differently. Game 3 was a more standard Japanese-style position, but it had some interesting tactical details too. Even after playing thousands of games, there are always new patterns and strategic ideas to discover, and that's just something that's good for the competitive Carcassonne scene in general. As for the organization of the tournaments, of course, Sergey did a fantastic job with the Carcassonne Champions League, but especially so with the CCL qualifiers, in particular with reaching out to newer countries and expanding the league, and second by helping smaller countries with their qualification tournaments. I personally didn't have a great autumn, and in September, October, November was very low energy to do anything really. So at that time, Sergey just organized the Latvian national qualifiers for me, for which I am deeply grateful. And this national qualifying tournament has become a precursor to what's going to be an annual Latvian Carcassonne online championships starting from autumn 2025. So the impact of Carcassonne Champions League goes beyond the league itself and grows the game in general in many countries, which is a great long-term trajectory to be on.
Now then, this has been the second to last episode of Meeple Podcast.